You've heard of rom-coms where the guy always gets the girl. You've seen drom-coms where 1 minute you're laughing and the next you're crying. Well, this is TraumCom, where we face our inner demons head on. You know, the ones that caused us all that trauma. And then we're going to make fun of them together until they get real uncomfortable in a fun yet supportive space. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Goldstein, and I am your host of the TraumCom Podcast. And we are going to be breaking down some barriers. We're going to be talking about things that are sometimes a little uncomfortable to discuss, but that's why we're going to be laughing at ourselves, being able to talk about it. Laughter is the best medicine after all. So here on TraumCom, we are going to be discussing lots of different types of trauma, coming from childhood all the way to adulthood, lots of different topics. And today is our very first show, and it is February 19th, 2024, and I am so excited because we get to talk about a lot of shit that is not going to be, your average coffee shop talk, okay? We're going to be getting a little uncomfortable. We're going to be getting really, really real with ourselves and with some of our inner demons here. We all have a little bit of trauma, I think. But I think it's really important that we are able to laugh at ourselves and look back and reflect and find some kind of peace, some kind of laughter, some kind of something we can just joke about because it already happened. You know, what are you going to do about it now? So this is coming from somebody who has experienced all kinds of childhood trauma, dealing with, parents, family members, scholastic things that all from my early childhood to my adolescence and stuff that I'm still dealing with. So today I have a guest on the show, and her name is Savanda La'Trece. She is actually a comedian herself, and she's hosted some stand-up comedic gigs, and she's an entrepreneur, a businesswoman who knows a little bit of thing or two about making laughter and sunshine out of some things that might not be so funny at the moment. So come on, Savanda, come and have a seat. Join us, please.
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you today?
Doing really, really good. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm awesome.
You're coming here from Hartford, Connecticut, right?
Yes.
All right. How was the drive up?
Oh, it was nice and smooth.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
No Walmart's on the way, though. So I got to hurry get out of this town because there's no Walmarts. And when there's no Walmarts, that's not a town you're supposed to be in.
Listen, I already stopped at a Walmart once today. I didn't even plan on it, but I needed a whole bunch of things, so I totally get that. That's the one-stop shop for everything, right?
Yes, definitely.
So I appreciate you coming on the show today because I wanted to touch base a little bit about some things that are a little taboo sometimes to some people to talk about, and that is our childhood traumas. So this is the first show. I want to really dedicate the first show to the beginning, the beginning of it all, of how we got fucked up, like what happened along the way?
Yes.
Like, why are we like this?
From that time, my mom laid down with my dad and they conceived me. That's when it started.
That's when it went wrong.
That's when it went wrong. Like, who told you to do that?
Right. So that, first of all, could be an intro to talk about some generational curses.
Yes.
Stuff that we can't even comprehend, stuff that we can't explain, stuff that was not our fault.
Right.
But things that we were brought into this world to experience,
Right.
and just the way that our parents were raised alone kind of formed how they raised us, right?
Yes, definitely.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember my grandma having a special drawer for all the weapons, tools that she had that she would, make sure that she got our little behinds with, and then my mom, My grandma had the spatula, the wooden spoon.
Wow.
When we were bad, she had 15 grandchildren who were running around the house, and she raised 7 children herself. So she definitely had a heavy hand on her.
I had the extension cord. I was raised down south. They do the extension cord, the switches, the 2x4s, and the hangers. Not the plastic hangers, the wire hangers.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
pretty much anything they could get their hands on, right?
Yeah.
It was like as soon as you saw them look to the left or the right, you know what they were looking for.
Yeah.
Right. And then. So it's like, now modern day tells us we're not supposed to beat our children. And we're like, oh.
We're not?
Really?
Where'd you get that from?
Since when? Because that's not what I was told.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think DCF wasn't really present when we was coming up like that. And I feel like they were more on the parents' side. More so than the children's side, because if you got out of line or they felt like you got out of line, and some of the things was like it was simple things, and you know what, I feel like sometimes our parents probably beat us out of their very own frustration, because we don't know what they were going through or the trauma that they had in their mind trying to take care of a household. As I think about it now, my mom, she raised 6 of us. I was 12 when her and my dad decided to separate. And so my mom had 4 children of her own and 2 children from her sisters. So it was like 6 of us in one household. Now, me personally, I have 2 kids. I don't know how my mother did it with 6. So she probably did need to, and mind you, she didn't smoke or drink. So maybe the belt was her therapy to say, let me keep them in line, put the fear of God in them or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
a lot of parents are like that. It's like, fear equals respect.
Right.
And that's just how it was to them. And as you say before, that's how they were brought up, but that's all they knew, how to discipline us. And you say you come from, having 5 different, siblings and children in the house. I was an only child.
Oh, wow.
And you think I didn't catch all that too? I mean, so it's like, on your end, your mom was sober, but she had so many children to look after, and the frustration, and kids are a handful, no matter if there's 1 or 6 of you in the household.
Right.
So to that credit, your mom didn't abuse alcohol or drugs, and she still, was raised to have physical force for discipline. My mother was an addict. She was a drug addict since maybe I was like 4 or 5 or so. My parents divorced when I was 2 or 3, and over the first couple of years, she got kind of caught up with that. With one of her older siblings, that was using, and kind of brought her into it. It was like, yeah, it's okay, and this, and actually, didn't even realize that she was using the drug at the time until she was already addicted.
Wow.
So that was hard for my mom, but she knew that she had an addiction problem, but she also tried to manage it well, but again, that abuse factor, right? She didn't think at the time she's abusing, causing any kind of trauma to her only child, who she loved very much.
Right.
But looking back, she felt like it was better for her to leave. So my mom she was a physical disciplinarian. Pretty much anything to the left or right of her, I was getting it if I was mouthing off to her from across the room, and I thought she couldn't catch me. No, she had a good aim. I'll tell you that. Her right hand it worked. She definitely probably could have went to the minors at least D1 on that arm. But so we say this now, and we joke about it, and we're laughing about it now. But when I was, 10, 11, 12, I was upset
Right.
about all that. I'm like, why is this, why does she feel like it's okay to do this? And, but now, and then having my own children, I have 2 children too. I have a
Right.
boy and a girl. And my boy is 16 now. My daughter's 19 now. And yeah, I put my hands on my kids plenty of times when
Right.
it's super disrespect, when it's really out of line, when it's something they've gotten in trouble for multiple times already, been grounded for, had stuff taken away. Okay, now you want to keep playing around, keep testing me, you're going to have to feel something in order to listen, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel my mom's like inner, her, I just feel her inside of me, her spirit. Her
I
spirit is
think
coming
that's
through.
something we pick up, but our parents don't understand it too much. And so when, like now, they're a little easier on our children.
Oh, don't you
And I'm like,
hate that?
you was not like that with us.
No.
And then now we look like the bad person.
Yeah.
And the grandparents look like the saviors.
Yeah,
And,
it's weird. I don't like that.
Oh, right.
Try to
Yeah.
back on camera a little bit more.
So,
here.
but it's weird. It's the weirdest thing.
I know.
Like, and so now I honestly, Jacqueline, I apologized to my children when I got older, because I was repeating some things that weren't healthy. And again, my own experiences and just going through being a single mom and not having the support of the dad there. So
Right.
that's a lot of emotional trauma
Yeah.
that I'm facing, and trying to make sure that my children are well and raising them up in the inner city. So I have a son. He's a black young male in the city of Hartford. I have a daughter, and it's like I was raised in the South until I was about 16, and I came up north. So I had a lot of Southern style of raising and
Traditions, yep.
traditions, raising my children. But when my children was being raised, they was being raised out of fear, fear of what could happen. I wanted them to be the best that they could be, but at the same time, it wasn't fair that my fear overgripped what they wanted to do. And it's like they were being punished, and they didn't get to do a lot of things that
Yeah.
they should have
They
been
didn't
able to
understand.
do, and they didn't understand. And
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand. Again,
Well-
it was repeating. It's those generational things that from my mother, she was pretty much raised by her grandfather and her grandmother, and so everything trickled down to me, and there
Including the
was-
beatings.
Yeah, including beatings. But there were some things that I was convinced. I said, you know what? Some things we just going to cut out, and we're going to stop it here.
Break those generational curses. That is
'cause
something
it
that
was
is
a
so
lot
important.
of incest in our family. And so when I
Yeah.
found out about the incest, and that's another reason why I was so overprotective of my children, because I didn't want history.
There was that
to
sexual
repeat
abuse.
itself. Yes.
And that has honestly happened in so many families regarding young children and an older caretaker, older family member that's supposed to be a protector of the
Yes.
child. And that's another thing, just to go back on what you said, our parents are nicer to our children. They're nicer as grandparents. But also I want to say that over the years, not only are we learning, they've been learning too. That not
Yes.
everything that they did was okay. So they're seeing that, and there's been a lot of, like you said, a lot of incest that have come out with the sexual abuse with families, family members, friends of family that have been trusted to be babysitters, young people and older people, from siblings to aunts and uncles to cousins to parents even, and
Yeah.
grandparents, and just that, hey, that's Uncle George, he's been in the family for 20 years. He used to be friends with your uncle,
Right.
he's your uncle too, things like that. And we have to start, we have started to be more cautious of things like that, because
Yes.
unfortunately that happened in your family, and you're not alone there. I mean,
Right.
honestly, 61% of Americans have experienced some sort of trauma in their life from childhood.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, the majority of those groups of people that make up that 61% are African American people, Holocaust survivors, or people of that, religion and that race, Jewish people, and indigenous people, Native Americans. Those are three of the main, the highest statistical rates for abuse and neglect and trauma, right, in this country. And that's because, let's face it, we have had to overcome so much more. And so our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents over the years, that goes along with those generational curses
Yes.
that we have, that we can, now kind of make fun of and say, hey, remember that thing that Grandma used to do? Well, that thing that Grandma used to do probably was something that when she was a kid was necessary,
Right.
to help keep her safe, or something like that, so it's...
And it's also, Jacqueline, learned behavior. Some things are, you don't even know why you're doing it, but because my grandmother did it, my great grandmother did it, and then you'll be like, well, why did you do it? Because they did it.
Yeah.
Well, why did they do it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it becomes, that's how it becomes the generational curses, because you're passing them on from one generation to the next generation.
Exactly. And it's hurtful.
Yeah.
My mother, she used to think it was better of herself to kind of lock herself in her bedroom and
Wow.
and not be seen by me for a long time, for hours, or the whole day or the whole night, because she thought it was better to, from what she had learned, to just, at least if she's going to be using, you're not going to let the kids see it.
Right.
So I wasn't in a household where it was all in my face and I was seeing lots of random people coming in and a lot of traffic. No, she kept it more hidden, and she thought that was better of her. But as a child, I remember knocking on the door,
Wow.
being like, hey, can you come out and play with me? Hey, can you come out and, and hang out with me? Can you come watch TV with me? Hey, later on that night, can you come tuck me in? Hey, she'd come and pop in, pop out every once in a while sometimes, but it was like, to her, she was doing the better thing because that's what she learned was better. If she's going to be using, at least keep it away from the kids,
Right.
at least keep it away from my daughter. But she was also keeping herself away from her daughter.
Right.
And she didn't really realize that at the time. So I have trauma and a little bit of like PTSD with being like neglected, like abandoned almost,
Wow.
She was there, but she
Right.
wasn't there. She was in the house, she wasn't, but it wasn't time with me. So in that sense, I grew up and I tried my very best to spend all my free time when I wasn't working, with my kids, involved in what they wanted to do, spending time at home, making sure they got involved with me cooking, even doing chores and things like that, just being around, which is so important.
Yes.
But I credit that to my mother, because who knows, I could have been a mother that could have been a little more nonchalant about spending time with her kids, and been out a lot more, and a little more carefree with my time. But remembering those times that I wanted to have with my mom, and where she was just keeping herself away, I'm like, well, God, I'm not going to do that to my kids. So
Right.
I made sure to do better in that regard. I'm not a perfect parent. I still have some of those generational curses to battle, you know what I mean? So like, I think I'm better because I don't hit my kids with anything, any foreign objects, any weapons, any tools like my grandma did. She had the paddle. My mom had anything she could reach. I mean, it was whatever it was, a VCR tape. It was a remote control. It was,
Right.
an ashtray. It was something. It was like whatever was there.
Well,
I was getting
you
So-
could get the shoe.
So I'm
You
the
could get
shoe,
anything, girl.
Anything, the
You
box,
know?
the box, the tissues, anything. But I'm like, well, I'm like, at least I only hit you with my hand, But then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's not
Yeah, it
like the
doesn't
greatest.
justify it. Yeah.
Is it just, you know what I mean? But I feel better. It makes me feel better by
Right.
saying that, because I knew it wasn't as bad as what I got, and it wasn't as bad as what my mom got. You know, so I'm like, you know, consider yourself lucky. You're only getting beat with my hand, you know.
But you
But
know,
at the same time, it's like, okay,
but let the
that's
kids
still,
tell it.
right? And then my kids will be on here talking about how, okay, yeah, grandma might have done this, and mom, but I'm never gonna hit my kids, you know. And they might find a better way to interact and to discipline with their children when they're being at their absolute worst.
Right.
And you know what? More power to them. I hope they do.
Definitely.
But I haven't found that happy medium yet, 100%. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, there's been a handful of times where I've had to put my hands on my daughter. She wasn't so much of a repeat offender as my son. I mean, like, she would get in trouble. Like, you know, obviously not everything warrants getting a physical punishment in my eyes. But, you know, and in some families, nothing warrants a physical punishment. You know, there's some families that can go through raising their child without ever putting their hands on their children. And God bless them,
please.
Oh,
and help me
God.
find that family. And like I said,
Can they adopt me? Is it too? Am I too old to be adopted? But you know,
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can with what I got, you know, the tools I was given, and I knew that it just couldn't be as bad as that. So I'm trying to do better. But my son, on the other hand, ooh, that child has been testing me.
I think boys, you know, boys
his
are a
whole
little
life.
bit different.
You know,
Boys are different.
definitely. And the more the reason he's gotten you know, some physical punishments more so than my daughter is because he is a habitual line stepper, continuously crossing the line, repeating offenses, like just literally up and down, rebellious, defiant, and so. Yeah, he's definitely going to tell you, you know, oh, yeah, mom used to, ooh, oh, yeah, he got it a few times. But, you know, it's not ever for, you know, but I tried. I took the game away for a week. You know, I took his favorite things away. I grounded him. You can't go to your friend's house. No going to the park. No TV. You know, no phone. No. But, I mean, sometimes... they don't even, they're like, yeah, whatever. I can live without that for a week. You know, I can, for a couple of weeks, I'm good. You know, and then grounding for a month. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just too much, because I'm like, the book says I'm not supposed to ground the child longer than this much time, because after so much time, you know, they've already corrected the issue, right? They've already corrected the problem. So now they're just being, you know, the extensive punishments are just a bit much too, I think, you know, because they kind of lose sight of what they got in trouble for. And then they're going to say, oh, well, if I'm still grounded, what's the sense in even, you know, doing better, because I'm still grounded for the next month or so. So I try to make the punishments be reasonable. Time, you know, like time reasonable to compare to their age and things like that. But yes, they definitely deserved some of what they got. Well, all of what they got, I'll say.
Well, you know what, Jacqueline, a lot of times, and this is where I understood it more, not the saying that says, do as I say, not as I do. Ooh, type thing.
Say it.
But
say it louder.
And again, I feel like now I explain why. When we was growing up, there's no explanation. You don't ask no questions. You don't do this. You don't do that.
Children are to be seen and not heard.
So now we have the opportunity to educate our children. We have another opportunity to communicate with them more. Why are you rebelling? Why are you acting this way? Yeah. What is causing this? Yeah. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And so we now get them to talking.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to face the ugly truth. Like now my son is 30 and we have a relationship, but when he was growing up, he really didn't understand, Ma, you did this, you did that. And I'm saying, okay, here's why I did it. Doesn't make it right. Again, I apologize. But tell me how you feeling. How did that make you feel? And what were you going through? Again, being a single mom raising a male child and a black male child at that.
It's
I'm
different.
raising them out of fear because now I'm afraid because I don't want the street to discipline you. So I discipline you so that you can go into society and be that outstanding citizen, upstanding citizen in society. And so, again, a lot of things that we do is out of fear because we want our children to be better than what we were, and they don't understand that.
Right.
And they don't understand the sacrifices that we make, the amount of hours that we put into work just so that they can have a better life, you know? And so.
And then sometimes sometimes it can't even be enough for our parents, what we're doing sometimes too. I remember when I was working, 60, 70 hours a week, I was waitressing and working odd jobs. My mom would say to me things like, oh, well, what about your kids? All you do is work, 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 work. When are you going to spend time with your kids? And now, and then I built a business. I own a residential and commercial cleaning company. And that I started when I was 23 years old. I had my 6-year-old daughter and my 3-year-old son. And I knew I wanted to do better, right? There's generational curses. There's things that I knew, the neglect that I dealt with when I was a child, the abuse I dealt with when I was a child. I wanted to be a better parent for my kids, but I was working, and that seemed like it was never enough, though. So, I'm working too much to see my kids. And guess what? Now that it's been 14 years and I'm not physically slaving all day, but I'm still working my business, growing my business, and I'm just working smarter, not harder now.
Yes,
so
definitely.
But you know what my mom says now to me? Well, what do you even do all day? Do you even work anymore? And it's just like, God.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't,
So in breaking those generational curses, we're also daring to be different and to do things differently than what people are used to seeing.
Yes, definitely.
And sometimes that can be hard too. And that can be very emotional and psychological when it comes to our children and how they view us.
Yes.
So I know my son, let me tell you guys something. My son is 16 and he's convinced himself that he recently told me that I gave him PTSD.
Wow.
Because of the times where he felt like it wasn't necessary and that he got his butt whooped, and things like that. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, kid, you have no idea. Like, I want to laugh at him. I want to laugh. I want to be like, you have no idea what it's like to get a
about
beating.
PTSD. Do you even know?
I think he just learned like what it is and like
Right.
associated it with his own life. And that's probably the most horrible thing that's ever happened to him in his life
Right.
is getting his butt whooped by his mom and sometimes more serious than others. But the offenses were sometimes more serious than others too. So, so he recently literally told me, this kid that I gave birth to, that I raised, that I protected, that I did everything for, that I love so much. He tells me, he's like, I really think you gave me PTSD. I have flashbacks, he said to me, and then I want to laugh at that. Like instinctively, I want to laugh at that because, kid, you have no idea what I got, and you have no idea. But just so like, I want to laugh. I want to laugh in his face. I want to be like, oh, fuck you, fuck you. You have no idea. Like, and you give this to me, and I've tried so hard to be different than what my mom was, and you really come to me with this, like, fuck you.
I think it's like, but you have to find a reason to blame your parent for something.
Right. But it's like, but he has no, but that's the worst he's ever experienced.
Right.
So he doesn't really have anything else
to compare.
So I can't laugh at him. So I can't laugh in his fucking face. I can't just be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I can't do that because I'm his mom, and I have to protect his mental state too. Yes. Not just teach him how to protect himself, teach him how to be a good person, teach him. I actually have to care about his feelings. Right. And
so they didn't care about our feelings though, Jacqueline.
They didn't care at all.
They're like,
they didn't care.
They hurt your feelings to hurt your feelings. I felt like, You didn't build my self-esteem.
But look, we have to, do as we say, not as we do.
Right.
What we tell them and what we teach them and what our parents said to us. I used to hate when my mom used to say, "Do as I do, not as I do as I say, not as I do." And I'm like, "But look at you! You're smoking a cigarette right in front of me. You tell me not to smoke. What? That doesn't make any sense."
Right.
But, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? This is so confusing. Like, you're really trying to be teach me, my educator, and you're doing all these things right in front of my face. But they're teaching us. They're telling us, like, this is not good. You shouldn't be doing this.
I don't want you to do
and
what
I
do.
hated that. But I'm sitting here doing the same thing to my kids.
Yeah.
And saying the same thing to my kids, I'm like, my daughter's driving. My son, I just took him driving on the road for the first time.
Oh my God, I saw that. That
we'll
gave me PTSD.
We'll circle back to that.
I was watching that.
Girl, teaching my kids how to drive, right? But look at this.
Yes.
I text when I drive sometimes, guys.
Oh.
And sometimes my kids see me do that. And then when they do, they say a little something like this. "Oh, but you don't want us to text and drive, right? Look at you."
Yeah.
Hypocritical. All this,
Yeah.
But I'm clearly being hypocritical. But all I can say is, listen, be better than me. Do as I say, not as I do. I had to answer this quick email real quick or this quick text real quick for work. I'm not really texting. I'm just like real quick sending this. But it still is being, texting, it's not doing as I say. So it's hard to lead by example if you're still fucking up, still doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, but you want your kid to be better. So it's like, you got to listen to me. And then in that, it's a cycle, really. We have to
break it.
We have to break it. But so
it's so hard, and sometimes it feels so good sometimes, but it's hard. But it has to become a habit.
Yeah.
Because just like we pick up that habit, we have to create another habit to put that habit down.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
And then we have to be fair.
Yes.
Oh, I have a boy and I have a girl. So Liam here, he is a podcast extraordinaire, and he is the man with the plan behind the microphone, behind all of this podcast stuff that I don't really know about. I just use my mouth to talk a lot. to talk. I corrected that.
Yes.
But you know what I mean?
Pause.
Like, yeah, right. Oh my God. I'm a talker. That's what I do.
Yep.
But Liam, let's say hi real quick, Liam.
Hello.
So we're over here talking about a lot of stuff that happened to us when we were kids. We were raised by so I'm mixed. My mom's Black and Native American and Irish, predominantly raised in an African American cultured household. And my dad's white. He's half Italian, half Russian Jew. So I talked a little bit about how my mother was physically abusive in those sense of quote unquote abusive, with the discipline. Savanda comes from an African American background, comes from the South, which is even deeper into that culture and those roots, where children were raised to be a little harder, a little more disciplined, because there was that fear of, when you messed up and you're Black in the South, it's a little different than when you're Black and you mess up here. You don't have as much grace, especially back in those days. So Liam, you're a white boy, and I love you so much.
That's true.
I hope we didn't traumatize him. Right?
No, he's a cute white boy.
I'm sitting there like, all right.
No,
what's going on?
We love you. We love you so much. But
No,
but in all reality, we can probably guess that maybe your upbringing was a little, maybe less physically abusive.
Never was hit once.
Oh my God!
Wow,
See, I didn't even know that, but I was just that was just a shot in the dark. See,
you got it.
Oh wow!
See, and you know what? My white dad, he never put his hands on me.
No.
Ever.
No.
Neither did my dad. My mom was the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
But well, my dad didn't put his hands on me. He did it with my other siblings. I don't know if something was written across my forehead, like "Don't touch that
you
crazy
were like
child."
A little angel baby. It's fine.
No, girl, I got a beating every day from my mom.
But not from your dad.
Not from my dad.
So he had a little soft spot for
right,
you.
he did.
But so Liam, so we talked a little bit about how the mental, the verbal, the emotional, the neglect portion of it, a little bit about substance abuse, the generational curses, how those can affect young children in the household, and a little bit about the fact that, you know, predominantly those types of traumas are in indigenous, African American, and you know, Semitic homes where there was some kind of travel to the U.S. In the past with that culture, where they were outsiders here at one point, and they had to raise their kids to be hardened and strong and tough and stuff like that. So that, you know, can explain a little bit about why our parents were goddamn batshit crazy. So let's talk about the other side a little bit.
I mean, like, my parents never ever hit me once. There was like probably like 2 threats in my entire life, but they never gone through it. It was because
they gave you warning.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you.
But I've always been by the book. I never was like, I'm not gonna step on your toes. I'm gonna stay in my lane.
That's good.
And so there was never ever the action of it, just the threat, like once maybe.
So you were just a perfect child. No. You never messed it up.
I was far from perfect, for sure.
So what were like some of the things that you did in your childhood that warranted getting in trouble? And what was that what happened when you got in trouble?
I was very how do I say it, like, definitely more had to be by the book than a lot more kids growing up, because my father had a higher position in the school systems and stuff. Okay. So I had to really follow by the book. So I always had to be very nice, always had to be very kind. I always had to hold doors open and say thank you to everyone and smile at everyone, and also be very respectful to everyone. Sometimes people I did not like. Gotcha. And you had
a little pressure on you there to kind of like live up to like your dad's shadow a little bit. Like you had to be somebody that didn't get in trouble a lot. So
for sure.
So you made sure you didn't.
No, I definitely had to say that. My siblings, on the other hand, were not. I was always a very good child, but they were not.
Did they ever get beat?
No.
I'm just curious. I just wanted to know. Right?
They probably got more. They got more grounded than usual, and more all that stuff than I ever did. But I was just. But also, I got away with more things than they realized too. I wasn't at all the perfect child, but I was definitely more of I was a middle child. So I didn't really get like respect with my parents. They paid attention to my older brother, who's autistic, and my younger sister, who's the star of the show. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, I was there, just like, hey, where's Liam at? He's in the basement.
He's in the basement, fiddling around with that microphone again.
Yeah, that's probably what I was doing. Yeah, that's honestly.
Well, I love that. I love that for you. Let me just say, I love that for you. And can I ask you, what was it like to get threatened? Because really, we just never saw it coming. Like it was just like a shoe to the face or something.
It was because I was being a dick to this lady in the store one time, and my dad was just like, "Don't pull your pants down and spank you in the aisle." I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." Like, I was like, "I'm good, thanks."
Wow. I don't want that to happen at all.
I basically said, "I'm good. Let's move on," and I apologized to the lady, and I went and did my own thing. So I never ever wanted to. Okay. So I guess my trauma from childhood has always been to quote unquote trauma, but it's always been to be the perfect son. You know what I mean? I had to live up to the perfect everything.
A little overcompensation.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that.
So I had to do I try to do everything, like try to be nice 100% of the time, and even go overboard. Being nice to people, and so that was like,
little Liam. That's awesome. You like little invisible Liam just wanted some attention. He just wanted to be noticed.
Yeah.
But but that's so true, and that's so true to being having that middle child syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. So like you, Savanda, you had to compete in the household for a lot of attention in different ways because you had so many many other people that your mother was paying attention to and your father was paying attention to. Me, I had only child syndrome, right? Typically a spoiled child. However, so my dad spoiled me on the weekends, because that's where all his money would go. And that's where all his time would go on the weekends when he saw me. But during the weekdays when I was home, like I felt a little bit of neglect, and a little bit of, the verbal and the emotional abuse, right? And then sometimes as I got older, the physical stuff came when I acted up or, acted out of anger sometimes, which would erupt from time to time. But I sought attention because I felt that neglect. I felt almost invisible because I was like the only one. I'm like, hey, like I'm the only one here. Like, hello.
But you know what's funny? That I did have 5 other siblings, but I didn't feel like the fight for the attention. But I was like more of the person that gave more attention. I'm the second child, so I have an older sister. So I took on like the older role, making sure my brothers and sisters was okay. So my toxic trait is caring for people too much. And I picked that up from my mom because she cared for the whole community, and so it's something about, giving. We had to share a lot too. Things got passed down. You got to I had to wear my sister clothes or,
Did you have to do that at all, Liam? Did you get hand-me-downs from your brother?
No, mostly my hand-me-downs were to my brother.
So he's your little big brother.
Yeah, I'm taller than him by like a good few inches.
Wow, and you always have been, pretty much?
For sure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My brother, he's a very nice guy. He's just very short and scrawny. But I've been the guy that's been doing sports and been very tall compared to my whole family.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, for sure.
I love it, okay.
But also, I was going to say, I definitely think, too, I was also... dealing with a lot of stuff going on with like school and all that stuff. I also learned to like not vocalize a lot and like the guy like tough guy doesn't talk about his feelings.
Keep it all in.
Yeah, that's like how I do my life a lot of time.
Did your dad ever like talk to you about? Was he very expressive with you, or was he more of the type of dad that was like, we're men and we don't really talk about our feelings?
He was expressive, very expressive, but I also think he also told me to like not tell me, but like he showed me a little bit like sometimes you gotta put your feelings aside to like for other things, and you gotta just let whatever you got go. You know what I mean? And even though it might be like a terrible thing, I just like try to let it go, or like little like just pack it in. And
you guys ever see Talladega Nights? Will Ferrell,
no,
the race car.
Oh, the race car, NASCAR.
Yeah, movie? The NASCAR movie. When he's like, we're just gonna shove that down deep, never bring it up again. Like,
yeah, that's me.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call you Ricky Bobby.
No, that's.
But I mean, but seriously though, and that though in itself, and we don't recognize it as trauma. It really is, because it's suppressing growth as a person, and we don't realize it, right? It might be hindering some of our ways of expression and letting our feelings out. And as we get older, that can lead to a lot of dangerous things, a lot of anger, a lot of self-esteem issues, resentment, hostility, just a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I got all that.
Oh, me too. And you know what? And like I was
saying,
you
read my diary?
Seriously, because so we grew up in all different like households and different things that we dealt with. You were the middle child. Yeah. You felt like you have to overcompensate. I felt like I had to overcompensate as well, because I'm like, my cousin made a joke the other day. We were talking and he's like, do you remember when we were kids? And he's literally like holding back laughter. He's like, remember when we were kids and you used to just like go home and do your homework? And we'd be outside playing and no one would even tell you to go do your homework. Like you would just be You would just be going and we would just crack up, and he was cracking up laughing. Like he's like, you would just go do your homework and I would come outside after. But that was what I knew I was supposed to do, kind of like you in a sense, because you know, you had somebody that you had to kind of live up to. You had shoes to fill. You had people to kind of quote unquote impress. You had a little bit of pressure on you to be a certain way. Oh yeah. Whereas I had really no pressure on me, but I'm like, hey, hello, like I'm here, like I'm doing stuff too. I'm doing really good stuff over here, you know. And Savanda, you had such a big responsibility growing up as a child, being the second oldest, you know, out of a big pack, you know, and you took that upon yourself to make sure that you're seen and heard, and took care of business. And I have a little sense of that too. I think that a lot of young people, when they go through certain traumas that had to deal with our parents, the way that we were brought up, whether it be intentional or not, because most of the time our parents are traumatizing us unintentionally, guys. They are just blindly fucking us up, and we have no choice but to go along with it because we're the kids. We're, you know, and I think as generations go on though, and we talk a little bit about this generation sometimes being a little being able to get away with a little more than what we were able to as kids, but I feel like a lot of that is our age group and a lot of the parents these days reading these books, hearing these talks, being part of these discussions where it is magnifying the fact that children need to be seen and heard too. And that's something that is a brand new concept for this past generation. So I think that in the mix, in all the like commotion of trying to find balance of like, hey, we have to take control, we have to be in control, but we also have to let them express themselves and let them tell us how they feel too. How do we do this? And then the kids kind of see that and they kind of take advantage of that sometimes because they see us being like, okay, honey, now you got to let me know how you feel. And they're letting us know, but we're trying not to step on eggshells and ruin our relationship with our children because now we're grown ups and we're realizing that our relationships are fucked up with our parents, you know, for a majority of us, not all of us, but for a lot of people. So we're like, damn, how do we not ruin the relationship I have with my child because I love my child so much? But shit, like this is really hard, you know? So Liam, so in your household, when you were not getting fucked up, what was that like? No, but I mean, but what, for your brother and sister, you say that they didn't really have any of the issues like that you had. They were a little bit more defiant, right?
For sure.
So was there ever, so you say like the threat, so sometimes let's say like parents have another way of quote unquote traumatizing us, and that is through manipulation tactics.
Oh, for sure.
So was there any of that in your household?
100%.
Oh yeah. No, let's talk about it.
Just think about that.
I think that's a little bit of, I think parents, all parents do that a little bit. Yeah. But I feel like some of the ones with the physical aggression, right? They're just like, fuck what you think. Like, shut up and go to your room, like, and just get out of here. Yeah. So, but with the ones that have like more manipulation, they let you feel maybe a little bit more in control at sometimes, or let you feel like.
No, it was more of like manipulating in the sense of like, your mother's upset, you should feel really bad right now.
Right.
Guilt tripping
stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of that. And I was always raised to be like, you never make your mother cry, because if you make your mother cry, it's your fault. And I'm like, got it.
Step on a crack, you break your mother's back.
That was basically kind of like what it was, especially my dad telling me, is like, respect your mother before anything else. And that's it. Yeah. So definitely for me, it was always to make sure that I'm not trying to, and I've messed that up probably a few times. Well,
listen, I mean, who hasn't made their mother cry at least once or twice in their lifetime? You know, our mothers care so much on a whole another level than you could even fathom. So the level of caring goes up. You know, the ways that you could hurt that person are just magnified too and intensified because they
For
care
sure.
that much more than the average person.
There's like certain things I can't talk to my mother about without us getting to just arguments and stuff. So
like what?
Like politics, politics, and like other things like that we can't argue about.
Can't even talk about it.
Can't talk about it with her.
Okay.
Or anything that's like anything that if I'm upset with anything, I can't talk to her about it because she gets upset. Then I have to there's certain things I can't talk to her about. So I just talk to her about most of the good things.
Yeah.
So she
that's
feels like
sweet
it's
to
going
keep
good.
her mind, on a positive note.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, in ways of trauma, right? That might be something that she instilled in you or your father might have helped with that too. That isn't 100% like textbook healthy, right? Like you should be able to talk to your loved ones, your parents about anything without you feeling like you're going to be causing them pain or hurting them or that fear, right? But in a way, it's hard to say. Like all of our parents just found a way to ruin us just a little bit. Just a little bit, like a little, like.
Like I totally understand. Like you were raised in a 2-parent household,
Yep.
and so to me that's different than being raised in a single parent
100%.
household. And again, out of fear. My son is 30 years old now. As a mother, just hearing what you're saying, some things he tried to spare me from because I'm a crybaby.
Yeah.
And I do cry and it hurt. But mothers don't want their children to hurt at the same time.
I know, yeah.
So some things like you'd be like, I want to tell her, but is she strong enough? But your mother isn't as fragile as you think she is.
Yeah.
I mean, she literally pushed you out. I mean, that took a lot of strength,
I guarantee it.
And not only that, being married. I never was married, but I know that takes on a whole different concept in itself, and so you're thinking she's fragile in the state. This lady is keeping the household together.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So she's not as fragile. And I think sometimes kids, and I'm just speaking to you as a mother, I think sometimes kids think that they are really protecting us because even society put the pressure on them and say, your mother. Yes, we have to respect our parents. That's no doubt. But sometimes we have to break those barriers because
they absorb some of what we're feeling and going through too.
And we are wise, we give wisdom. We are nurturer by nature, just like your father may say, "Hey, Liam, right?
Yeah.
Just suck it up, Liam." But our mother would be more of a nurturing. If you had
upset,
that type of mother,
you, she would be upset.
She gets upset, but she gets upset in like she's angry upset that's happening. So it's like mama bear.
Yeah.
Comes out and it's like, well, I'm pulling you out of school. I'm like, wait, hold on, we don't have to
because like I would have to go and hurt somebody for messing with my kid or that kind of thing. And a lot of times, like I said, my son, he would say no. And I'm more of a person, I do a lot of talking. And so you're like, let's keep her calm.
Yeah.
And just in general, the fact that our there are so many different ways of emotional abuse that is especially unintentional that our parents have kind of done. They feel like they're doing it right, but there's always something in us that's like, we feel like just isn't right. Everyone has that something in us that like, damn, like I wish I wasn't like this sometimes when I get like this, and emotional abuse, right, is different than the physical in so many different ways, but it is a leading factor in the fact of why people have lacking confidence issues or causing anger issues. And it can cause higher levels of depression and health problems in adults compared to other people who have experienced other different types of child abuse than emotional. So there's just so many different ways that this this world can like kind of chew us up and spit us out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have to, we really have to define how it's going to affect us, you know, because we know that, you remember all those little cliche kind of cartoons or examples of saying how, oh yeah, you're laying on the shrink's couch and you're talking about how your mother fucked you up, how everyone has mommy issues and things like that. Blame the mother. There's a lot of movies and experiences like that where it's cliche for someone to blame the mother for their psychological issues. That is fucking for a reason, okay? That is not just like a coincidence. That's not, that is so true. Our moms are our biggest supporters, our number one fans, our first love, and are the biggest reason the biggest reason why we have trauma. Yeah. You know what I mean? In many cases.
We just got to face it.
We have to face it.
We really, even as
mothers, we have to look.
It's something so hard just to hear you say that.
True.
But it's the truth.
And that's part of part of breaking the cycle too, is actually being able to realize it, accept it, and try to do something to change it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Be the change we want to see.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, I want to
Mahatma Gandhi.
Listen to me. When I was 11 years old, I have a little bit of trauma. Like I said, a little bit of like neglect, a little like abandonment stuff, right? When I was 11, my mother left me on a binge. She would go on these little binges for maybe a day or two. And starting when I was like 7 or 8, I would start waking up in the middle of the night, realizing she wasn't there. And she'd be back in like the next day, and then as I got older, like maybe a day and a half that night or something like that. So when I was 11, my mom left me for 6 days and 5 nights. And I didn't tell a soul because I was embarrassed, because I didn't want to be seen as anything different. I didn't want anyone to feel bad for me, or it was just so embarrassing for me at that time. But do you know, so I went to school every day. I, got up, took care of the animals, came home, did my homework, went outside and played with all my friends. When their moms called them in for dinner, I went in, cooked for myself, or went over a friend's house for a little while, always went home, took care of my responsibilities. I am an only child, but I like to think that I've become a very independent person, and part of that is because of the way I was brought up, because I had to be, right? Which a lot of people would be like, oh, that's really sad and stuff, but like, yeah, at the time I felt like it was, but I had to write an essay in high school. In 11th grade, I wrote like a 4-page paper, and we were asked to write about the most influential person in our lives, and why. And I wrote about my mom for 4 pages. I thanked her for doing the things that she did and for showing me what not to do.
Wow.
For her absence, I learned how to cook. I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to clean. I learned how to be independent and not be afraid to be by myself. So that's a great thing, right? I took a little bit of that negative stigma and the negative experiences and turned it into something positive. But a lot of people aren't able to do that. So in saying that, I say this. Do you know what the fuck my kids would do if I fucking left for 6 days and 5 nights at 11 years old? My kids would fucking not survive. They would not survive.
I'd be dead, bro.
Yeah. They would not survive. They would call the cops. The National Guard would be at my house.
Yes.
They would be like having a manhunt for me. First of all, they would be terrified. So they would call everybody and just be like, where the fuck? Second of all, they would be so worried because it would be not like me to do something like that, right? But at 11, I was already conditioned that, oh, she'll be back. This is just mom. This is just something she's doing. And then even at night, when she would leave at night, I wouldn't lock the doors. I would get up in the middle of the night and I'd go back to bed knowing and making sure that the door stayed unlocked, because that's how she left it. Mm-hmm. Because I was afraid that my mom would come home and be locked out.
Yep.
So I was, in a way, taking care of her, worrying about her needs over my safety as a young child, a young female child. Anybody could have just walked in the house. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Right.
So I take it. So I have this thing where I get up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water, or I get up, before I go to bed, I always make sure the doors are locked, and it's just instinctively I walk by, I'll go out of my way to make sure the doors are locked. And sometimes I do it twice. And then I'm like, oh, I just did this like 10 minutes ago. I just do it as an instinct. And that is a form of trauma.
Yeah.
And it might be funny to some people, right? Like, oh, she's always like locking the doors. But nobody really understands why I'm doing that. I freak out if, the doors are left unlocked when my kids were younger and stuff like that too, because it was just I knew what I was doing when I was a kid was a form of trauma, but I'm like, I can't keep this up, But, so yeah, these kids, so yeah, all of that. We try to heal from our trauma at the same time, but we are making our kids kind of soft a little bit sometimes, I feel like. What do you feel about that? Like, these kids, this generation I feel like they're so soft, but they don't need to be abused and neglected the way that I was. But is there a medium of making them, like, not so soft and not so hard? Like, because I am totally a product of being hardened. A lot of stuff doesn't bother me. A lot of stuff doesn't get to me because of the way I was brought up. And most things that I go through, I'm just like, fuck it. Literally my motto when shit hits the fan is, it'll probably be fine. Like that's just so nonchalant when the fucking house is burning down. And I'm just like, it'll be fine. We've been through worse, but whereas a fucking normal person without all that trauma would be like, oh, we have to do something about this. This is bad. We have to fix this, I'm like, that's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I definitely think that a lot of people nowadays are a little soft, especially a few of the people that go to this school. A few people I know, I don't know. It's how, like, from the town I was in and, like, the people I knew and the people I grew up with, it was not like how it is nowadays where it's just worrying about everyone's feelings on a big platform thing like that, where it's like, oh, so-and-so's upset. Everyone, let's all jump in and help them. It's like, no, it was always like, fend for yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was always like, where I came from was like, it doesn't matter who 5 people think about how you feel at all, or if people cared at all. It was about, how am I going to get through the next day by myself,
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I think in my opinion, this generation is one of the softest, and it's my generation. So
do you think it's because they weren't beat enough?
No, not necessarily, because I wasn't.
And you're a nice guy.
Yeah,
you came out okay.
I came out fine.
So are there any like deep-seated like anger issues we should know about that you don't just like portray on a regular basis, but you're deeply fucked up somewhere? Like
probably somewhere around there. I don't even know. There's some things I don't know. There's some things I like really can't stand.
Can't process good.
No, yeah, my emotions are probably one of them, but but that's fine. I mean, I'm living. I'm very nice people still.
See, that's you, because you were like, yeah, like, don't talk about your, what upsets you so much. Just deal with it. So now you just hear yourself. You're just like, yeah, that's fine. Like that's your trauma. Like that's a part of your trauma that like our parents and you probably look on the outside looking in, right? Without this conversation. You probably have the perfect parents. They never beat you. They never hit. They did this. They put you through college. They're doing things for you.
Yep.
They have, they taking care of their, but their sons and their daughter, and they're doing things right. But, at the same time, in doing some of those things and in not maybe enforcing certain things because maybe being too passive or being, pushing things off, it made some sort of trauma for you to have to deal with now and grow through, right? And learn how to cope with certain situations that you might be able to deal with better had you had someone that was, more emotionally supportive better at, verbalizing emotions and things like that,
Yeah.
and it doesn't make them a bad parents, doesn't make them anything. It just makes them, that was their cross to bear with parenting, is maybe not being so expressive.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that definitely a lot of the things how I am is a lot of self-taught more than my parents, and that's just because of the environment I was in, and I'm sure I can get into that a different time.
Well, yeah, I mean, your parents were busy, right?
Yeah.
They were busy taking care of your older autistic brother, and also they had a little girl, baby. So the last child is always the one that, usually gets doted on the most.
Oh yeah.
And also, if there's only one girl in the child, she's gonna definitely get doted on the most. So she happened to be the baby and the girl.
Oh yeah.
So you were just like tossed to the fucking side, like, there's fucking Liam. Where the fuck Liam go?
In the basement.
I thought he was in the car with you, honey. Oh, damn it, we gotta go back to the store again.
Almost like a Home Alone scene.
Is he
where
is he in the basement? Oh yeah. He's in the basement.
yeah, the Home Alone scene, like, oh, I thought he came in the car with us. We're in a whole total different state.
We left Liam at Walmart again.
That's probably the case. That happened once, maybe.
See? You know what I mean? Like, but you had, from the outwardly looking in, like a really great time.
Well,
right?
our kids probably would be like, man, you should switch life with me, and I think we look at other kids' parents and was like, wow, you guys have a perfect family, but not to the kid that's in that family.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but over here, I'd rather be over there with y'all, know.
Nah, I'm good with my team. Ain't trading anytime soon. I'll keep to my team. I'll be loyal for a few more years.
Yeah.
And then, if it goes bad, I'll make my own.
Right. and that just accredits to the fact that there are so many different types of trauma. That's why I am so happy to be making this show, because I feel like one trauma isn't worse than the other, and people that are classified or labeled as being trauma survivors or being put through trauma, they are looked at as damaged, as broken, as somebody that has too much baggage with them. Maybe somebody that maybe is fucking crazy. Maybe is somebody that has mental issues, right? Quote unquote, right? So I want to create this show, and this is the first of many and I want to stress the fact that no trauma is better or worse than the other. So maybe there was a lot of physical trauma in your past and you feel like your parents were the worst because they beat your ass, while Timmy's parents down the street, he never showed up to school with any bruises on him. He never, got it when he got home, right? But guess what he probably got that you don't know about? While you were at home doing your homework and having family dinners, but getting the occasional ass whooping because you acted up, maybe they took it out a little too far sometimes, but the thing is that maybe Timmy was in his room, by himself because his parents were too busy, too self-involved, working too much, having addiction problems, worried and too focused on their siblings or other family issues, right? Poverty issues, working so much just to make ends meet. Having the electricity turned off sometimes because the bill was late, things like that, right? Maybe Timmy was dealing with those issues, and that gave him a lot of anxiety and a lot of things that you couldn't even understand. So there are different types of childhood traumas, and it's just the physical neglect. There's the physical violence. There's the emotional abuse. There's the and there's sexual abuse too that we touched on very briefly, and we'll definitely get into that in another show. But all types of childhood traumas affect everyone differently. There are people, men and women, that have been sexually abused and go on to lead very healthy relationships and very wholesome and fulfilling lives, while it could have destroyed somebody else. And that's just a testament to different people's strength levels and different people's coping mechanisms, and sometimes people reaching out for assistance and help in dealing with those emotions, right? And which is always a suggested thing, is talking about it. And my thing, laughing about it.
Yes.
Because there's always something to laugh about, no matter what you've been through. Like I said, I always joke, and I look at my kids sometimes and they complain about, not being enough snacks in the house, and, we have to go back to the store. And oh my God, are you kidding me? When I was a kid, I remember my mom having food stamps, right? And she was spoiled from when she was married to my dad. My dad spoiled her. But then when she became a single mother, she kept that lifestyle going a lot of times. She got all the expensive foods and everything. And I remember being really hungry towards the end of the month. Last week of the month, we were running out of food. And I'm like, damn, there's all this peanut butter, no jelly. There's fucking cereal, no milk. There's goddamn bread and no fucking mayonnaise. Like, what is going on? There's cheese, no bologna. There was halves of meals we had to put together.
Yeah, girl, I did. I know how to put together a meal.
I mean,
no.
Okay, so you had it good.
Sorry.
In that sense. You had your mom, your dad together. They was in the household working it. But you know what?
We
Guess
had the peanut butter. We had the jelly.
Lucky dog, you
Sorry.
lucky
You probably
goddamn
had
son
the
of a
turkey
bitch.
instead of the bologna with the cheese.
Yeah, you had
and the
options.
bread.
You had different types of lunch meat in
We
your
had the
in your
mayo.
fridge.
Right.
You had the mayo and the Miracle Whip.
Yep. You're right.
So my thing is, I was young, and I'm like, I'm remembering, like, damn, we're hungry as hell towards the end of the month. So I'm 10, 11 years old, replacing the expensive stuff on the belt with the store brand stuff.
Yes.
And my mom would get so mad. She'd be like at the belt and be like, I didn't put this shit up here. I'm like, oh, Mom, that's because I actually want to eat on the 30th. Okay? So is that okay? She's like, no, I got this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but this is half the price and it's the same thing. I'm 10, 11 years old being the adult, arguing with my mom, like, hey, let's ration out our money that we have for food for the month because your child gets really, really hungry. And you know what I mean? But that's just one of the things of growing up with a single parent, having to kind of be the adult, having to be the more responsible person, or in some cases you felt like that, But and then nowadays looking at that, and these kids wouldn't even know what to do if you sent them to the grocery store with a bag full of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. They'll get snacks and microwavable food.
And they'd run out of food in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, it's up to us as adults now to be more responsible and to be aware of the things that have affected us in the past. And that the fact that we need to talk about it, we need to get it out, we need to talk about it, we need to laugh about it, because if we can't laugh at ourselves, I mean, what the fuck are we doing here? Because like I said, it already happened. What are you gonna do? You can't spend your whole life crying about things that have already happened. I mean, you could, and I very highly suggest you go to therapy because it is a very, very good tool to help you cope with your emotions. But I also feel like laughter is too. Yes. So I feel like you should tune on in the future, and we're gonna be talking about lots of different topics. And on the show, and we're going to have lots of different guests. We are going to be having clinical professionals. We are going to be having people who have been through all types of abuse and all types of trauma and all types of healing as well. We are going to be talking about positive things, and being able to make fun of ourselves and the ways that we tick, nowadays, and maybe blame our parents a little bit for some of it along the way.
Yes.
So Savanda, thank you so much for being a guest on our very first show. Yay! So you guys, this is TraumCom. We are here to break down barriers and talk about stigmas that are surrounding trauma. And we're going to make it okay. and we're going to make it acceptable to be a little bit traumatized by stuff, because it doesn't have to mean that you are broken. It doesn't have to mean that you're damaged goods. It just means that you're working through some things, and my trauma might be different than yours, but trust me, you're fucked up too.
Perfect.
Thank you, Liam, so much. I really appreciate your input here, because you come from a different type of trauma. You come from a different type of upbringing. You come from, something that me and Savanda might look at. When we were kids, we might have looked at your household as, oh, he's lucky. He gets this and he gets that. And, in a lot of sense, maybe you were. But, in a lot of sense, there's other families that would have encouraged a little more communication, a little more emotional, stability. Yep. That would have encouraged you to be able to deal with some of your emotions a little better as an adult.
I'll figure it out. I'm only 21.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The beard adds some age.
Yes. But you're very wise.
I was going to say you're very mature.
Yeah.
And, that is absolutely a testament to your upbringing as well, in a positive way, because, you had your family together, and you had some good morals instilled in you. And, kudos to your parents for making it work and sticking together and raising such a fine young man that has, you have a grip on yourself, but like I said, nobody is without trauma. Nobody. I don't care who you are, and your trauma is not better than mine. I don't care what you say. But I definitely have a lot of it, and we'll unpack some of that throughout, the shows. But I appreciate you, Savanda, and you, Liam, talking with me today a little bit about like parental and childhood traumas, stuff that we've been through, and the reason why we are the way we are.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you, guys.
All right. Well,
thank you, guys. This is TraumCom, and next week we'll talk about some other shit that makes you uncomfortable. See you soon.